Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, lately I've gotten comments from friends and family that, they're recently finding some of these comic shows, such as The Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and they don't have an idea on how to watch this episode. Which one to watch first, the timeline of it. So, this video will discuss that. The Arrow started back in the year 2012, in the fall of 2012, and it ended in the spring of 2013. That was his first season, and it did pretty well. So it went on to having a second season, which started in the fall of 2013 and ended in the spring of 2014. Now, during that season two, the Flash was introduced as Barry Allen. He wasn't the Flash yet. He actually came into the Arrow show as a detective because at this point Oliver was dealing with Deathstroke, so things were starting to go into a different direction. It wasn't as grounded as the first season. So Barry Allen found this case interesting. It was out of the ordinary. So that's how he was introduced. That's how he was introduced into Team Arrow. Actually, this happened on episode 8 and 9 of the Arrow in season 2. So it was really a two-part episode where he was helping the team with his forensics. Actually, they teased some love story with Felicity at that point because Oliver and Felicity, spoiler alert, hadn't gotten together at that point. So at that point, towards the end of episode number 9 of the Arrow, Barry, he goes back to Central City, and at that point they're showing us how he gets his powers. So the typical that he gets his power when the strike lightning, and from there we don't have anything else after that. We have to wait for the show. So then the Flash kicks off in the fall of 2014 and ends in spring of 2015, and that's season 1 of the Flash. When the Flash starts, it's pretty much picks up from when Barry got hit by the lightning, but then they fast forward 9 months later, and he wakes up from a coma. All this time, Barry was in a coma. He wakes up, and he then realizes that he has some sort of powers, and at some point, he ends up visiting Oliver to tell him about his powers. So at this point, we have season 3 of the Arrow and season 1 of the Flash. So at this point, the CW announces that they're gonna be having a crossover between the Flash and the Arrow. So yes, for the first time, we're gonna see superhero teaming up on TV, not on the movies, but on TV. So this was very exciting news at the time. These crossovers actually happened very early in the season because remember these seasons are 23 episodes long. They happen with I will say after the 8th episode or 7th. So it will start on the Flash and it will end on the Arrow. So they will have that like a 2-hour movie pretty much, and this will continue into the following seasons. Now we move forward into season 2 of the Flash and season 4 of the Arrow. Now a new show comes along, but at this point the show is not in the CW channel. It's actually in CBS. The show is called Supergirl. So the show goes on to have, I believe, it's 22 or 23 episodes. When it begins, there is no mention if this is part of the Arrow universe. So obviously, we think it's not because there's no mention of her on the Arrow, on the Flash. There is no mention. So keep that in mind as we go along. So just as Supergirl is premiering, we're having season 2 of the Flash. We're having the Arrow. At this point, again, we're having another crossover. This crossover, again, it starts on the Flash, ends with the Arrow, and a few more characters are introduced. They don't really get their own show. The characters are Hot Girl and Hot Guy. It's pretty much the episodes are pretty much around them, about having Randall Savage trying to get Kendra, and she trying to figure out her powers. This is a pretty good 2-part episode. The Flash even has to go back in time because Central City pretty much gets destroyed, but he runs back in time and he's able to stop that from happening. After that crossover is completed, then this really is happening in the fall of 2015. All this is going on in 2015. But what happens once we get to January in 2016? We have a new show called Legends of Tomorrow. The cast in there, you have the Atom, you have Heatwave, you have Captain Cole, you have the White Canary, and you have Rip Hunter, and you have Firestorm. This is a new show, and it eventually also picks up Hot Girl and Hot Guy. Then, if we move into the second part of season 2 of The Flash, there's an episode where Barry is testing a device that is allowing him to go faster than ever, and he goes really, really extremely fast. And what happens is that he opens a portal and he goes through it, and he doesn't know where he ends up, but where he's really at is in Supergirl's Earth. At that point, now pretty much Supergirl is part of the Arrow universe. Yes, the Flash is now teaming up with Supergirl. It's really late in the season that this happens, but it's the first crossover that Supergirl has with the CW. At this point, the show is still season 1 for Supergirl, and she's still in the CBS channel. So they have this crossover. It goes pretty well, and then the season ends, and eventually they make a decision that Supergirl is going to move to the CW. It's no longer part of CBS, so they had to move production over to Vancouver, which is where they have all of these shows happening. It's all filming in Vancouver. They're all there now. Supergirl was being filmed in California somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. So they had to move production over there. Now at this point, we have all these shows combined. We have Supergirl. We have Supergirl on Mondays. We have the Flash on Tuesdays. We have the Arrow on Wednesdays, and we have Legends on Thursday. So now you can see the way of watching these shows. Now, eventually, Legends ends up getting moved over to Tuesday right after the Flash. At that point, I don't know if this is happening because of ratings issues, or maybe they're already thinking about having another show happening on Thursdays. But that's the way now. The new lineup is really Supergirl, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and the week ends on Wednesday with the Arrow. So because now these shows all exist under one universe, just Supergirl exists in a different Earth, they end up having now a massive crossover. Yes, now instead of just being the Flash and Arrow, it's now Supergirl, the Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. They all have the biggest team up that I have seen on TV, and I was really excited because to me this was a movie. It was pretty much a 3-hour movie. And why I'm saying 3 hours and not 4 hours? Because the way that the crossover started was in the last minutes of Supergirl's episode. So Supergirl had an episode on Monday, and then towards the last 5 minutes, we see Barry Allen coming to ask for her help, and then we move into the Flash, and then they tell us right there right after Supergirl's episode that it will continue the next day on the Flash. So they do. It goes on to the Flash. They take care of business there, and then it goes on into Legends of Tomorrow. Into the Arrow, and then eventually the episode ends with Legends of Tomorrow, where they actually have to go back in time at some point. But that's the crossover. Now, next year, they're gonna have a true 4-hour crossover where it's supposed to start with Supergirl. The crossover doesn't stop here. It continues. It actually continues with the Flash and Supergirl. They actually had announced a musical episode, which I was not a fan of. I still watched it because I wanted to see what they were trying to do. Because to me, when they announced that, I'm thinking they're going to be singing the entire episode. But no, they did it in a way which made sense. I thought they were going to have the character just singing throughout the episode, but no, they got stuck in some dimension where if they wanted to survive, they needed to sing. So I was able to take that, but that's how that crossover went. I can understand why they did it. The drama that was going with Supergirl and her boyfriend, and the drama that Flash was having with Iris. So that's what happened there. Now, to really summarize this, I have to say that yes, you have to watch all shows if you want to keep up when they're making comments and when they're having the crossovers. Now, it's not really going to affect many of the episodes that this series have, but if you really want to get the whole picture, everything, I recommend that you watch them in a linear form, meaning you want to watch Supergirl, then you want to watch The Flash, then you want to watch Legends of Tomorrow, and then you want to watch The Arrow. The one that probably has the least amount of interaction with the rest of the shows is Legends of Tomorrow. But that's just my opinion. I still recommend that you watch them all together. That's what I've been doing since day one. I remember when I started, I actually did not know about the Arrow back in 2012, but later on, and I binge watched this, and then I moved into season two, and I continue ever since, and I watch them one by one. I try to keep up because it's so much. You're talking about 4 hours of shows just from the Arrow universe. I watch other comic book shows, but this one I found it very very interesting because it's all connected. They have crossovers. So if you wanna get the entire feel of the series, you wanna be able to do that, but you have to know how. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening and spread the word. See you next time.